Hi, everyone. We want to welcome you to our live program today talking about scholarships. So at Pitt, we have a few different ways we review for scholarships, and we're definitely going to go over all of that, what we're looking for, different types of awards, and then most importantly, have time to answer all of your questions. So to begin today, I want to quickly introduce ourselves. My name is Chris Zurcher. I'm an assistant director here at Pitt Admissions. One of the things I, of course, focus on is scholarships. So I've been doing this for a few years now. So any questions, again, we're more than happy to help. Give you a quick little background about some of the things that we're looking for when it comes to scholarships. We have a December 15th priority consideration deadline. So that's right around the corner within 2 weeks. That doesn't mean, though, that we haven't already been reviewing for scholarships. So we have been reviewing since about the beginning to middle of October. So a lot of those awards have been sent out already, but we still are reviewing. For any student who applies before December 15th will have priority consideration. That means your application will be automatically reviewed. There's no additional supplemental information you need to submit, although we do ask you complete 2 of the short answer questions. But we're going to base that all on your application, your GPA, transcript. If you submit a test score, there's no additional application required to be reviewed for scholarships. A few things to keep in mind. We are reviewing students for test optional this year if you're applying to certain programs. So if you're going to apply as test optional, that's completely fine. You can still be reviewed for these merit-based scholarships. They are merit-based, so when we're reviewing, they're going to be based on your academics and your short answer questions. We do not consider any type of need-based or anything like that in the discussion when we're reviewing for scholarships. That's going to come through financial aid. There's 2 separate offices in the admissions, an Office of Admissions and Financial Aid. On our end, admissions, we're reviewing for the merit-based scholarships, but then on the financial aid side, they're going to look at your loans grants based on FAFSA. That's a real quick overview about some of the things that we're looking at. I'm also joined by Lauren, who's going to introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about our scholarship process.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Wright, and I'm the Director of Undergraduate Recruitment here at the University of Pittsburgh. Thank you so much for joining us. I, like Chris, serve on a university scholarship committee, and I'm glad to be here with you this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. As Chris mentioned, I'll just add a couple additional things so that we can dive right into questions. He talked to you a little bit about our merit-based financial aid and scholarship process. One of the other things that you should keep in mind is that all the scholarships that the students get are not completely awarded through our office. There are several different scholarships awarded throughout the University of Pittsburgh to help make your dream of coming to Pitt a reality. You can find most of our scholarship opportunities on a site called Pitt Funds Me. That's our internal scholarship database that has scholarships both within the university as well as external to the university. It's sort of one big pool where students can see all of the different opportunities that are available to them. One of the nice things about the Pitt Funds Me process and portal is the opportunity to fill out essentially a demographic profile of yourself. And that site will match you to scholarships opportunities throughout the university. And again, even some external opportunities as well. So I say that to say the freshman process and the first year process is not the only time you could be awarded a merit scholarship. There may be other scholarships awarded throughout your time at Pitt. Some of those scholarships will consider additional factors such as financial need in their process, though our first year scholarships for incoming students, either on the transfer side or on the first year side, are going to be awarded directly through the admissions office. So I'll start with a couple questions and then I'll pass it back over to Chris. As I can see, there's a lot of information jumping in the chat and we love to see that. A couple key highlights. We are utilizing, if you submit merit-based test scores, we will review those in the scholarship process. However, we are test optional this year, so you are not required to submit test scores to be considered for merit-based scholarships, and we are considering for scholarships on a rolling basis. That process did begin in November and typically goes until about the end of February. So if you haven't heard back yet, there is no reason to be concerned at this moment. Chris, do you want to take some of the questions from the chat?
Yeah, sure. As Lauren said, there's a lot coming in, so we definitely appreciate all the questions and participation so far. Just to kind of get started, some of the things that we mentioned for the scholarships that we're reviewing on the admission side are based on academic merit. So we are not going to consider any type of need-based when it comes to the academic merit scholarships. But again, any type of need-based loans, grants, FAFSA will be released through our financial aid office. Normally around the first week of February, students might receive their financial aid packages from Pitt. On average, what percentage of scholarships are given to out-of-state students? So it really depends. We try to award our scholarship to be pretty representative of the student body. Last year, roughly about 44% of our students from our students that came to Pitt were from out of state. So about that much would be awarded to our out of state students. So we do try to keep it pretty proportional between in-state, out of state. The other big thing is going to be the academic program, engineering, arts and sciences, business, just to name a few. So that all factors in to the discussion. Because out of state though, typically you're going to pay out of state tuition compared to PA students. These scholarships are going to be generally a little bit higher. So for out-of-state students, they start at $5,000 and then work their way up, 5, 10, 15, 20, depending on how strong your application is. Where in-state, because you're paying in-state tuition rates, typically those will start at $2,000 and then work their way up from there. All right, Lauren, want to take any other questions from your end?
Absolutely. So I'll dive in a little bit on a few questions are along the theme of the need-based financial aid and submitting the FAFSA. So to repeat what Chris said earlier, there are no need-based criteria related to any of our scholarships that are awarded by the admissions office. Is it important to submit the FAFSA? Absolutely. At the University of Pittsburgh, we have programs like the Pell Grant Match where students can actually be given 2 times their eligible Pell award by the University of Pittsburgh. So there are some need-based awards that are separate from any merit consideration as well. So when it comes to the university, because the entire package is typically made up of multiple awards, they may be still that free money, quote unquote, as far as grants and things of that nature. It is important to submit that FAFSA early because those opportunities exist as well. However, we do not review the FAFSA or look at the FAFSA as any part of our scholarship review process when it comes to scholarships for incoming first year or transfer students. So you shouldn't be concerned about that. The need-based financial aid offers are typically rolled out, I would say, anytime around the beginning of February. It could be a little bit earlier, it could be a little bit later. There's definitely, it's going to depend on different things like the volume of applications, the volumes of packaging and things of that nature. But generally speaking, we do a really good job at the university of making sure that at least a couple months before that May 1st decision deadline for our students, they do have a full financial picture of the university. Again, that's why it's important. Get that FAFSA in early so you can get that information back early from us. On the side of the scholarship notification, again, you could find out about that anytime between now and the end of February, most typically. Generally speaking, the award you get is really going to be your final award package. So I see there's been students who are lucky enough to already receive an award from us. That is excellent. I will say what we do in our process is it's our goal to really be able to give a student as much as we are able to give them, in line with the fact that there's obviously a limited amount of funding and a lot of students that we would like to acknowledge and recognize. So we can't always increase awards when students maybe don't get exactly what they need, but I would say keep in mind that there are a lot of those need-based awards to be keeping in mind in your packages, as well as that Pitt Funds Me site we put in the chat, which also offers different scholarship opportunities. So the award you may get from our office in admissions is not typically going to represent your entire package. If you do happen to be eligible for need-based aid, and even if you're not, there could be other opportunities at the university you could get through filling out that Pitt Funds Me profile and getting some of those awards. Chris, do you want to take these questions coming in about National Merit finalists?
Yeah, sure. So for National Merit finalists, in terms of review for our general scholarships, it doesn't really have too much of an impact. We do have a few specific awards that are available for students who name Pitt as one of their top choices, but those are only going to be awarded after May 1st. So we're going to review students who have committed to Pitt. So in terms of how much it's going to impact the review before you ultimately make a decision, we're not going to consider that too much, but we do have a few of those specific awards that will be available after May 1st. A few more general questions about Pitt Funds Me. All the Pitt Funds Me scholarships, some of them will have different criteria. If once you are admitted to Pitt, you actually will have access to kind of go in and see what are these Pitt Funds Me awards, what are they looking for. Some of them can be just general awards for arts and sciences. Some of them might be specific for nurses from New Jersey. So it really depends on what the awards are. You can see all the criteria and some of the things that are going to be required for those. Just to kind of recap some of the things that we've been talking about already, and I see some similar questions coming in as well. Any student who applies by December 15th will be given priority consideration for Pitt scholarships. So what exactly does that mean? You'll be automatically reviewed for these scholarships, but if you apply after December 15th, it's really going to depend on how much funding that we have left. So make sure you're applying as soon as possible to make sure you get that priority consideration for the review. As long as you submit your Pitt application and at least 2 short answer questions, you will be automatically reviewed. So there's not an additional application. There's nothing additional they have to submit outside of those application materials to be reviewed for these scholarships. The scholarships that we're going to be reviewing for our office are for incoming first-year students or transfer students. So for anyone who might be a current Pitt student or something like that, we really encourage you to look at Pitt Funds Me because that's for currently enrolled students. But our office is going to focus really on those first-year applications and then some transfer scholarships. I know we did have about 1 or 2 questions referring to transfer students. Those scholarships are going to be pretty competitive and limited, but there's not a specific date as of now for when you have to apply. So again, just generally, the earlier that you apply, the better chance that you'll have for scholarships as a first-year student or a transfer student. One last question that I saw popped up before we head back to Lauren. Do merit scholarships tend to be more holistic or GPA based? So that's a really good question. All of our practices in Pitt admissions are holistic. So for admission itself, for scholarships, we really do focus on a holistic review. But since these are academic merit scholarships, we are going to put a little bit more emphasis on those academic materials, such as your GPA, if your school ranks, if you submit an SAT, ACT score. So those are going to place a little bit more precedence on the scholarship review process because they are academic merit awards. They are very competitive at Pitt. So roughly about 23-24% of our incoming student class will receive a scholarship, again, anywhere from $2,000 to full tuition, but those full tuition ones, again, are limited and competitive. All right, Lauren, go ahead. Back to you if you have any questions that you want to answer.
Great. Yeah. So there's some good questions coming in related to the merit scholarships for a couple years. So this is a good question about if your student happens to be, because we could have a lot of people on this call. Maybe you're not an incoming first-year student or a transfer student. If you happen to be tuning in and you are a current student at Pitt, or you are a parent or guardian of a current student at Pitt, we're specifically focusing on the scholarships that are offered by the admissions office. However, Pitt Funds Me is available to students for all 4 years while they are at the University of Pittsburgh. So that would be the best site to seek out academic merit or even need-based scholarships at the university for those who may be current students. And it's a great place to go for those who may be currently enrolled, maybe already got a scholarship and are looking for additional funding, or even before when you've been admitted to the university, but you haven't heard back from the scholarship committee, you could be looking into that Pitt Funds Me site for other opportunities. That does come with its own profile, but it's not an actual application for those individual scholarships. If there is an individual scholarship that requires additional application materials, they will be done specifically through that site or through the scholarship organization that has posted those scholarships there. So there's a question related to that as for how does that compare to something like a FastWeb? Basically, it's an internal site that has external scholarships that our financial aid team has vetted as legitimate, which is great, but it also includes the scholarships internal to the University of Pittsburgh. So if you're really specifically looking at Pitt, or you've already enrolled or you're admitted, then the Pitt Funds Me site is just going to be really convenient for you. There are some questions here about testing. I think Chris talked about the holistic review and what we focus on in the process. And I would just like to emphasize that same thing because I know people are concerned about that, is we are going to be very holistic. The biggest thing to keep in mind and probably the biggest factor in the decisions, because these are merit-based scholarships, is going to be that high school transcript. Whether or not a student sends in an academic test score, that high school transcript really does matter. And the things that we're looking for are positive grade trends. Traditionally, the students do have an A average. If the school is a ranking high school, most students are going to be within the top 5%, maybe top 10% of their high school class to receive a merit-based scholarship. And they're also taking rigorous curriculum, AB, AP, IB, college and high school courses, honors coursework is also going to be very important, particularly if you don't have that additional academic element of a test course. So I say to students, definitely be challenging yourself within the classroom, particularly now, whether or not you decide to send test scores or if you were able to take test scores, you shouldn't be concerned that that is going to prevent you from being awarded a scholarship, but you should really be focusing on your performance in high school overall. We also have some questions in here about prioritization within scholarships. So generally speaking, all of our scholarships are holistic in nature. Someone asked specifically about the idea of things like diversity awarding. Absolutely, there are scholarships that consider underrepresented groups on campus, but that is just one factor that we consider. So we are also looking for students who have unique interests or unique backgrounds or people who would bring any sort of diversity to our campus. So it doesn't necessarily mean you are part of a traditionally minoritized group, but it does mean that you may be unique in some way, as the university is definitely looking for students that would enhance our campus. So that is definitely very important. And then the last question I'll answer, because I think it came in a few different times, is the scholarship notifications and the acceptance notifications are actually separate. So the scholarship review process is one process and the admissions process is another process. You could have been admitted as early as September this year and not hear about a scholarship until February. So you definitely do not need to count yourself out. If you do feel like you should have heard back or you're concerned, maybe you missed the mail, lost email, something like that, you can definitely reach out to your territory manager, and we'll get that link for you in the chat. That's going to be the person who's responsible for your state or country in the academic review process, and they'll be able to let you know where you are in that scholarship review process if you've already been considered, or if for some cases you may not be receiving an academic merit scholarship and you want to verify that, we can verify that with you as well. But again, I say that's really not something you need to worry about until the spring when we've actually had a chance to finish that scholarship review, since that's really done on a rolling basis. Chris, I saw a question about full scholarships in here, and I think that's a good segue to you for some of those opportunities.
Yeah, we do have some full scholarships available that will cover even just full tuition, room and board, some additional funds, things like that. Again, they are extremely competitive. So any type of full scholarship award, as long as you apply before that deadline, you're going to be reviewed for these awards. A few additional scholarships opportunities that we haven't spoken too much about. About 2 days ago, December 1st was the PA Scholars deadline. So any student who applied to Pitt and submitted their PA Scholars application will be considered for the Stamps and Nordenberg Scholarship. And then one additional one that was on December 1st was the Pitt Honors deadline. I know we received a couple questions about the honors program. For the most part, students who apply for Pitt Honors and we review for scholarship, those are going to be a separate process. However, any student who applies to Pitt Honors and is admitted to the Pitt Honors program will also be considered for the Chancellor Scholarship. Like all of our scholarships, this review is going to happen automatically. So as long as you submitted that Pitt Honors application and that short answer question, we're going to review you for the Chancellor Scholarship, which is going to be additional opportunity for a full tuition, room and board scholarship. But again, as long as you met that deadline and submitted the Pitt Honors application with a short answer question, you will be reviewed for the Chancellor's nomination. A few other things to kind of just keep in mind that I wanted to talk about is the importance of demonstrated interest. So what exactly does that mean? Applying early is one part of that element. So this is all part of the holistic review. The other thing is the campus visit. So unfortunately, with where we are with everything, we aren't hosting students for in-person visits, but there's a lot of virtual opportunities, such as Saturday, which is our first day for admitted students. So if you are interested in visiting Pitt, we keep track of all that and we use that in the application process. So make sure you're visiting virtually. We have all of them on our website. So we really encourage you to visit that way. It's just another piece of information that can help boost your application. Every year we can see the difference of a visit or of a strong short answer question. Those elements are what we're going to use. Maybe if you're in between no scholarship and a scholarship, or between a 10 and a 15,000. Did they visit campus? Did they write a strong short answer essay? Anything that you want us to know about you that you can't put in your application, include that in the short answer questions. Include that in your personal statement. So that's your opportunity to show us more of just an SAT or ACT or class rank. We really can see a little bit more about you as an individual student. So keep that in mind. Put effort into those short answer questions, into those personal statements, because they really can be a difference, between 5 and 10 or 10 or 15, which can make, Pitt a really strong option for a lot of students. A couple more questions just about some of the elements that we're considering. First gen status, things like that. Again, we want to bring as much diversity to campus as possible. So that's all going to be included in that holistic review. A couple other specific questions. Homeschool, so we're all considering every information that we have is going to be considered for a scholarship. So for homeschool students, we're still going to look at your transcript if you submit a test score. So that review process is going to be the same as any other student that's going to be applying to Pitt. Unfortunately, for any student who missed the honors deadline, it was December 1st, so you can no longer apply to the Pitt Honors Program as an incoming first-year student. But if you decide that you want to come to Pitt and you want to be involved in the Honors College, you can still do that. Pitt's Honors Program is very open and inclusive to students, whether you're admitted or outside of the Honors Program. So come to Pitt, you can still be involved in some honors courses, honors programming, and then you have the opportunity to apply to the Pitt Honors Program as a sophomore or a junior at the University of Pittsburgh and still work towards earning that honors degree. A few more questions about what we're looking for in a personal statement. So it's really up to you. To us, think about, we had about 32,000 applications last year. The majority of them are going to answer short answer questions. This year, a lot of them are submitting personal statements. So we're reviewing a lot of written work from students. So what is something that you can bring to campus, whether it's a skill or an interest, or maybe something that's really personal to you that you want to share with us? We just want to learn more about you as an individual student. So what's going to stand out to the committee of you as an individual? So think about that. We really want you to write what's important to you. So don't try to write about, your AP courses because you think that's what we want to read about. We can see that already on your application. So give us some insight to what really makes you interested as a student in the university. And that's kind of how you'll catch our attention for just general admission and for scholarships. And I know our Pitt admissions are helping us answer some of these questions. So we are trying to get through as many questions as possible, but Pitt admissions will be replying to some of those comments. And then if you have any questions that don't get answered, feel free to reach out to any of us, your territory manager, and then we'll be more than happy to help. All right, Lauren, any questions that you want to answer?
Sure, yeah. So if for some reason you weren't able to submit your short answer questions, I know there's been a couple people who maybe had some issues with the common application. That's one opportunity you can take, either to reach out to us generally through our Pitt admissions site, pitt.admissions@pitt.edu, and send those short answers to us. That's another thing that you could also send directly to your territory manager. Again, those individuals are out there to be advocates for you in this process. And the short answer questions are definitely very important, as Chris said, particularly since we are test optional this year. If you're not submitting those academic test scores, we really do want to get to know you as holistically as possible. So those short answer questions really do tell us a story. And the Pitt specific short answer questions are the ones that are most helpful for us. The common application essays are definitely excellent and they tell us a lot about you. We've definitely gotten some strong essays that are helpful, but the Pitt specific short answer questions not only show show demonstrated interest that you chose to complete ours, either in lieu of or in addition to the common application essays, but they also focus on topics that are really important to the campus and to the university as a whole at Pitt. And so those are the things we really want to know the most about you, even in addition to what you may be telling us in your common application. I think a couple people have joined us. So just to reiterate, if you have already applied and been accepted, congratulations. You will not necessarily know about a scholarship right away. The academic scholarship process is separate from the admissions review process. So you can find out even a couple months after you've been admitted that you've been awarded an academic merit scholarship. If you already did the short answer questions, completed your full file, it's nice. Pitt doesn't actually have a separate process that you have to take in addition to that. So you can sit back and just wait for those decisions. So please don't be concerned that you need to send in additional information. For those people who have already submitted their application, should you be sending in additional essays? No, quite honestly, we just are going to be looking at those essays you submitted with your actual application. If for some reason you didn't submit a essay or you had an error, we completely understand. Technology issues have been happening to all of us, and you didn't submit any essays at all. It may be helpful to submit those because for a holistic review process, if we don't have that information, particularly if we also don't have test scores and we just have your transcript, it is going to be hard for us to holistically award you a scholarship. So we do want to see some form of a short answer question if you weren't able to submit one. If you already did, there is no need to submit additional short answers at this time. We really are looking at those 2 short answers that we ask for. So there's also no need to submit 4 instead of the 2. It's much easier for us and for you to just focus on the things that you think are most important for the scholarship committee to know about you. You can submit things like letters of recommendation. They are generally most helpful for explaining either a academic decline on a student's transcript or some sort of personal issue, but sometimes they do supplement an application really well if a student maybe couldn't articulate something within their short answer questions. 9 times out of 10, the student voice is going to be most important to us, but we do accept letters of recommendation, and we actually have an online form that we'll drop in the chat for you all. If you do want to submit letters of recommendation, you can feel free, but that is not something that's required, nor should you feel any pressure to submit those. The priority should really be those short answer questions. For students who are logging in on this call who maybe homeschool or have some concern about the class rank, what we do is we're reviewing students in context of their own school environment. So if you're homeschooled, no, then they're obviously you're not going to have the pressure to be in the top 5% of your class. That's not just a blanket statement. And the same goes for those students who are concerned they're at a very competitive high school. Generally speaking, we're looking at the high school context in order to make our decisions. So any numbers that Chris or I may give you today are not going to be fixed cutoffs. Pitt doesn't have any sort of academic rubric to say this student's going to get a scholarship, this student is not going to get a scholarship because they met X, Y, Z criteria. That's not the way that the process works. However, when I'm talking about typically speaking, the students are going to be either top ranked. About half of our students come from schools that don't even rank, but generally speaking, that A average is going to be a pretty common factor around most of the students who do receive an academic scholarship. And generally speaking, about 1 in 5 students are going to receive an academic merit scholarship for us when they're coming into the University of Pittsburgh. Chris, any questions standing out for you?
Yeah, I know we've had a few so far about a micro scholarship program that we participate in called Raise Me. So the easiest way to see if you qualify is to create a profile and then add the University of Pittsburgh. For the most part, students have to participate or be eligible in free or reduced lunch, and then they have to attend a high school in certain geographical areas where we target market some of our populations, have some regional recruiters, things like that. So if you go on Raise Me, create a profile, and add the University of Pittsburgh, you'll be able to see which of those micro scholarships you might be eligible for. Checking out some of the other questions that we have coming in right now. And thank you again for the people who are joining us. We see that there's more and more joining. We really appreciate all the questions. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about rolling admission. So we have December 15th as a priority consideration deadline for scholarships. So any student who applies prior to December 15th you'll automatically be reviewed for merit-based scholarship based on the application and the short answer questions that you already submit for admission. If you apply after that date, you probably still will be reviewed, but it gets more and more competitive, and it's all going to depend on how much funds that we have left. We did start reviewing students for scholarships about 2 months ago, so some of you may have already received an award. If you did, congratulations on that. We really do try to put the best academic offer that we're able to have for that first award. So normally whatever you receive, if you have received a scholarship already, is typically the best that Pitt's going to be able to offer on the merit side. But then usually around the first week of February, you would receive additional information if you completed a FAFSA for any loans or grants that you might qualify for. In terms of the notification process, any student who receives a scholarship will be notified by March 1st. These are going to be sent in the mail. If you unfortunately do not receive a scholarship, you will not be notified. So any student who does receive an award will be notified by March 1st. The reason why is because scholarships at Pitt are extremely competitive. Usually between 20 to 25% of our admitted students receive an award. So students sometimes have to go through 1, 2, 3 different review processes when it comes to scholarships. So be patient. We're going to review all these students, and if possible, we'll award you that scholarship by March 1st. A few more questions about letters of recommendation. So we do not require them. We really want to hear directly from you, the student, whether that's a short answer question, personal statement, whatever it might be. If you want to submit it, you certainly can. And the scholarship committee will take a look at it. But again, we're going to put more emphasis on those short answer questions, personal statements, GPA, and if you submit a test score. We are test optional this year for a couple of our programs: arts and sciences, business, engineering, School of Computing and Information. So if you decide to apply to Pitt as test optional, you can still be reviewed for merit-based scholarships for the Pitt Honors Program, general admission, any type of graduate schools that you might be interested in. How many weeks after you submitted your application will you know if you've been accepted? So typically it's about 4 weeks. We have received a large amount of applications recently, right around the holiday, the beginning of November. So we're really in the process of receiving all that information, downloading it, and then adding it all to your account. So it could be anywhere at this point between 4 and 6 weeks, but we're trying to get you those admissions decisions as soon as possible. You would be first notified of admission, and then a scholarship could come anywhere from maybe 2 weeks after until March 1st. Those would be separate notifications. So make sure that you're checking your mailbox and your email when it comes to the different notifications that Pitt has. Again, we're trying to go through as many questions as possible, so keep them coming. Pitt Admissions YouTube will be commenting on them, so thank you. You'll see some of the different links to financial aid, different forms if you want to submit resumes, letters of recommendation. Again, emphasis on the campus visit. While you may not physically be able to visit campus because of COVID and the protocols that we have in place, virtual visits are just as important, and we're keeping track of all that. So if you're looking for a way to maybe boost your application and the holistic review process, we're really going to look at things like your short answer questions and demonstrated interest with a potential visit. Any student who is admitted to Pitt, usually between 24 to 48 hours, you will receive an email to log into your Pitt portal. If you have not received that email, our Pitt IT department has a 24/7 technology help desk, and they'll be able to set you up with questions and help you get that email access so you can check to see if there's any documents missing or what you might have to still do. All right, Lauren, anything that's jumping out to you that you want to give some answers to?
Sure. There was a couple of questions related to how scholarships or even Raise Me might impact your overall financial aid package. At the end of the day, you simply cannot have a financial aid package that exceeds the cost of attendance at the university. So generally speaking, you are not going to end up with any sort of increased award on decreased award on a merit-based side based off of other awards that you're getting. So for example, if you're getting external scholarships outside of the university or additional additional scholarships through a site like Pitt Funds Me or scholarships through Raise Me, the first thing that we would look to reduce would be any need-based financial aid like your loans. So ultimately, the package is going to be built in the best interest of the student and the family. So you can't really, you shouldn't really worry that a merit-based scholarship would ever have to be reduced based off of your financial aid, unless for some reason you had well over and above the cost of attendance for the university in academic merit scholarships, which is going to be a very, very rare occasion because the cost of attendance figure not only includes your tuition, your fees, your room and board, but also some additional money for personal expenses, books, fees, and things of that nature. So generally speaking, a student would not end up in that situation. The only thing that could happen is they could end up with just scholarships with a combination of unsubsidized loans. So that's something that you can definitely work with us throughout the spring. Once you do get that financial aid package, we can clarify those questions a lot better, but you shouldn't be concerned that the first thing that you should do is go out and get those merit-based scholarships. That's definitely the best approach to be taking, and we'll take it from there as far as building you a strong financial aid package overall. As far as what you should be doing once you submit the application to Pitt is if you've submitted it, you included the short answer questions. The nice thing about our process is there's really nothing additional you need to do at that time. If you are nominated for certain scholarships, you may be asked for additional information, but again, there's nothing that you need to be doing on a proactive basis from us other than doing those short answer questions. And we will be considering every student who applied on or before that December 15th deadline on a rolling basis. So again, you could be reviewed anytime between the beginning of November about then up until March 1st. So you can sit back, relax. You can start looking at external scholarships if you would like. Some questions here about if you had that letter of recommendation waived and you are not able to utilize that form, you don't have access to your letter. Again, that goes back to our territory manager process here at Pitt. We have a representative for every state and country around the globe. So if you, your teacher or counselor or coach or whoever wants to submit a letter of recommendation directly to that individual, they'll help get it to your file. You can also email us at pitt.admissions@pitt.edu and we can get that added. The one thing that we do ask if you are submitting information via that process is please include your student ID number. If you're aware of it, that's very, very helpful for us. If you are not aware of it or you have not been already admitted, please include your date of birth so we can get that information linked to your file as soon as possible. But again, those are items that are not required. So no pressure to go out and get a letter of recommendation if that's not something that was in your original file. We will be spending the majority of the time on your transcript, on your short answer questions in the review process for scholarships. There are some scholarships specifically to different schools and colleges and also to even our alumni association. We do get some questions about things like legacy scholarships. Our office does not award every single scholarship that's available at Pitt, but those scholarships are available through the Pitt Funds Me site. And yes, some of them may come with additional application materials. Some of them do not. So that site is a very good place to go. You build a profile and then they connect you with scholarships you may be eligible for based on your profile. Those awards are based on academics, on merit, and also on need. So there's a wide variety of scholarships, whether or not you feel like you may be academically qualified or qualified from a need standpoint, there really is something for everyone through that Pitt Funds Me. So I encourage you all to check that out if you're looking for additional funding. For when you will get your admissions decisions, yes. So generally speaking, you will get an email, and then we also send, like the scholarship letters, admissions decisions via the mail. Definitely the busiest time of the year. We're in between the scholarship deadline and the deadline for Pitt Honors. So it's going to be one of those times where the decisions may be a little bit more extended than they are normally. But please do not worry. We are definitely reviewing decisions. We will even be making decisions over the holiday break. So we will make sure we get those decisions out to you all as soon as possible. So please don't be concerned that something is wrong if you haven't received an answer on your acceptance yet. It doesn't mean that you have done anything incorrect. It just means it's a very high volume time for us. So please don't be concerned about that. And then the last question I'll answer, and I'll pass it over to you. Chris, is again, the timeline between when you get in and when you hear about scholarships, there's actually no specific rhyme or reason to that. So it's not, if you get admitted, it's not necessarily that we review you a week later. The process does happen on a rolling basis, but there are a lot of factors that go into it. So ultimately, the way that you know if you are not receiving a scholarship is you will have heard back from us by no later than the first week of March. If you haven't heard back from us, you were not awarded a merit-based scholarship from our office, but it doesn't mean you couldn't potentially be eligible for other scholarships. If you're concerned about that, or you think maybe you missed some communication, again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We can definitely assure you that you've been reviewed and what that decision was. But again, please give us until the first week of March, because those decisions are being made on a pretty consistent basis, and those decisions are being sent out via the mail. Chris, any other questions you'd like to take?
I did see a couple of questions about Common App. So for students who are applying on the Common App, if you submit that personal essay, we can use that as your personal statement. So that's whether you're applying test optional or with a test score. So if you're submitting Common App personal essay, we'll use that as your personal statement. And then you can still complete the short answer questions specific to Pitt from the Common App. So that's what we're looking at in terms of scholarship review. You can do all of that on the Common App, or if you submitted the Common App and didn't quite get a chance to do the Pitt short answer questions, we put the link in the chat. So just scroll through there, find the short answer questions. You can go ahead, submit that, and we can attach that to your application. We talked a little bit about notification deadlines. I did see a couple questions about the Pitt honors deadline. So any student who applied had a completed app by December 1st, submitted that Pitt honors essay, will be notified by February 1st. So we're going to send all of those out together. So usually right around end of January or on February 1st, all students who applied to Pitt honors will receive their decision letter. Looks like we have a few minutes left. So if you have any last minute questions, feel free to kind of put them in. We're going through as many as we can. We're going to share some information based on questions that we might not be able to get to. But again, another link that we included, which you can see, is the territory managers. That's something that's really important to Pitt. So we really take pride in being able to manage a territory. For example, I recruit in the state of Ohio. So if you click on that link, you'll see me for Ohio. So any Ohio students, questions about your application, scholarship, anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. Anyone else, you'll see who your territory manager is. So if you think of a question tonight, tomorrow, something that unfortunately maybe we didn't get the answer today, feel free to reach out to those territory managers. Again, we really like to advocate on behalf of students. So maybe if you submitted your application and you could be borderline for a scholarship, maybe right in between two awards, one of the things that we really like to do as territory managers is to advocate for those students. So demonstrated interest, reaching out to territory managers, applying early, doing a virtual visit. These are all things that we're considering outside of just your test score or your GPA class rank. Again, the scholarships that we review in admissions are academic scholarships. So first and foremost, you have to have a strong transcript, mostly A average, strong class rank if your school does rank, and then test scores. If you submit one, then we'll look at some of that additional information. But it is still a holistic review. So I know personally, that's one of my favorite things about the way Pitt does scholarships is they are a holistic review from people like myself and like Lauren. So if you go onto our website, you won't find a chart that tells you if you have this GPA, this test score, you're automatically going to get this award, because it is people like ourselves who are going to review these applications. So keep that in mind. There is no chart or anything like that. We're considering all of the information that's going to be in your application. So again, as we finish up, any last minute questions, feel free to get them in. Scholarships are going to be sent out via mail, so make sure you're checking your mailbox. We're also going to send out emails for just general admissions. So you'll have a nice little video that might pop up in your email if you're admitted to Pitt. So make sure you're checking both your mailboxes, physical and virtual visits too. A lot of emphasis on that as well. So if you have questions, reach out. Working through some of these last questions. If you submitted your application on December 1st, and maybe some of your information came in a day or two later, we understand that it is tough to try to get everything in if there's computer problems, things like that. So we will give students the benefit of the doubt, but we want to see most of the students have the application in and completed by the deadline, by December 1st. So if there's some kind of issue, feel free to reach out to one of us. But again, those deadlines are pretty hard and fast. So try to get all your information in, for example, by December 15th. Completed application, that's important. So that means your application, any type of short answer question, test score, transcript, everything that we need for a review has to be in before those deadlines. If you're applying test optional, we'll consider you for scholarships. If you're applying with a test score, there's not going to be a specific cutoff. As I mentioned, it is holistic review. So yes, you have to have a strong test score, but you have to also have a strong GPA, strong short answer questions. So all of this is coming into play when reviewing students for scholarships. You're automatically going to be considered. So just make sure you submit that completed application by December 15th, the short answer questions, and we'll take a look at you for those scholarships. Lauren, is there anything else that you happen to see with those last questions that we need to address?
Yeah, I think you mostly covered it. I do want to emphasize if you did the Pitt specific short answer questions via the common application, you don't need to use that form to submit your short answer questions again. We will download them. If you did the common application essay, we do look at that, but we do encourage you to do the Pitt specific short answer questions. If you are able to, those definitely tell us things that we think are really important to us from our campus perspective and what things we're looking for. And demonstrated interest, Chris said this earlier, is very, very important. So we have an Admitted Students Day that is coming up this Saturday. If you happen to have been admitted, we encourage you all to come to that. Demonstrated interest definitely does matter. And it's also really important for all of you to get a very clear picture of the university. There will also be an additional scholarship session offered during that program as well. So if for some reason you did not get questions answered and you are an admitted student, please feel free to come to that. If you haven't been admitted yet, you definitely will still have access to your territory managers who can still answer your questions throughout the process until you get a chance to be admitted to the university. And they're well-versed, just like Chris and myself, in these scholarship processes. So please keep that in mind. And then it looks like I'll answer this last question that's coming in here. The difference between the Pitt personal statement and the common application essay. There are, because we have our own specific questions. So we have Pitt specific questions because these are things that the university really wants to know about the students that we're admitting. So the Common App gives us really great information and we always look at that. Anything that a student takes time to send to us, we look at. But the Pitt short answer questions tell us something about the students that we really think will build a strong campus environment for us at the University of Pittsburgh. So those are very helpful for us in the overall review process. And again, it emphasizes the demonstrated interest that you maybe did take a little bit additional time to complete an essay specific to Pitt when you could have done the common application essays, which are more general. So we encourage you to definitely do one or both. And then I will answer the questions about the Admitted Students Day as well. Yes, there will definitely be more than one Admitted Students Day. So no pressure to go to the one this Saturday, though I think it will definitely be excellent and you have Pitt fresh on your mind because you're here with us today. There will be other opportunities. And if you are part of our mailing list, you're obviously going to be hearing from us via email on all the different ways to connect, and several different things were flagged in here that will keep you connected to us at the University of Pittsburgh. So 100% think you all are in a good place if you have questions past today as we wrap this up. I think that's all I had. Chris, anything else from you?
No, nothing else from me. Again, we really appreciate all of your time today, all the good questions. Hopefully we got through as many as possible. But Lauren and I really appreciate the strong participation, getting all those questions today. Hopefully we're able to help a little bit about some of the scholarship process, but anything else that you may need, feel free to connect to us virtually, whether it's virtual visits, reaching out to those territory managers, emailing Pitt admissions. We're definitely more than happy to help. But again, on behalf of myself, Lauren, the scholarship committee, and Pitt admissions as a whole, we want to thank you all for tuning in today. Hail to Pitt and let us know if we can help with anything else. Enjoy the rest of your night.
See you.